There are three rules for surviving a scary film, and they are presented to us in the 1996 Scream. And these fears are actually based off of some real anxieties that the adults in our lives and our media share with us over our lifetimes to get us to survive. And while writers like Judy Blume or TV legends like Mara Brock Akil may not write horror, their stories and their narratives help us explore some of the more scary anxieties that surround us while we're growing up. And most notably, what we do with the fears we are handed when we start to grow and step into our own adult lives. And that's where the Netflix show Forever comes in. In 1975, Judy Blume published Forever, which is one of the most banned books over the last couple of decades. Forever is transposed by Mara Brock Akil to be this beautiful depiction of Black love, Black wealth, Black childhood, and it connects with everybody because we've all been there, right? The growing pains of being a teenager and falling in love for the first time. Judy Blume is famous, and you probably know her because her work around children's lives and their interior lives, including growing up and becoming a teenager, it's very famous. Her work has been out there for a while. It's hit all the different milestones of people's lives, and it's very detailed and also very white. Growing up in a primarily white town, I recognized the world that Judy Blume was writing about, but I also thought that the parents were not that strict and the kids were really rude to their parents. Their problems also look different, not in a class way, but in the fact that they just moved about in the world as if it was built for them. At that time, could I articulate my Blackness? No, I could not, but I was understanding what kind of particular American whiteness these kids were living in. But the power of a great story is to go beyond the time it was written in and stay tethered to that universal human experience within it. And that's what we have here with the Forever show. Mara Brock Akil, TV legend behind Girlfriends and The Game, was able to mine this story for those universal elements, but also put it in a Black context, connecting millions of readers to this same story. It's a fresh take on a classic, and when you look at the Black families in this show, most of us are instantly going to get some of the nods and the references. They didn't dip the characters in chocolate and then present us the same story. So the book itself has faced bans over the decades because of the frank discussion and approach to the teenage sexuality and intimacy within it. Keisha and Justin are navigating the same struggles of young love, their choices, their families. We watched the two different Black LA families walk through parenting with their kids in a similar fashion to the way Michael and Catherine in the original text did. Now, heavy on the inspired by part. Judy Blume is a producer on this show. There are nods to the text. They didn't lift this story, right? It was deeply inspired by, and it's something that the original fans can enjoy, but it's not a one-to-one. So the part that got people really upset about the book and this story in general is that two nice, normal kids get together and the world doesn't fall apart, i.e. somebody doesn't die. Judy Blume decided to write Forever after her teenage daughter asked for a book or a story in which two people navigate this growing up experience and nothing tragic happens to them at the end. While I was on an airplane, trying not to look at the screen next to me because that person was watching the 1996 film Screen, I ended up watching the whole thing. And I was very interested in the part where Randy, one of the characters, kind of jokingly in the movie's moment of self-awareness, which is really quite funny, says that there are three rules to surviving a horror film. If any of the characters, Randy relays, engage in intimacy, drink or do drugs, or announce that they will be back soon, you can expect them to be offed. Stories in a society are, yes, entertainment, but they also serve as part of a social function. We use stories, and we have used stories from the beginning of time to scare children into staying away from certain things to keep them safe. There has been this idea that if you scare your children enough around certain things like intimacy or drinking or whatever, you can keep them far away from all of that, and that's enough to prepare them for the world. There is a strict form of policing, especially in Black communities, because people understand that the room and that margin for error is a lot less in this state. But what if policing and scaring people doesn't prepare our kids as well as we might hope? Because what do you do if in Justin's case, you've succeeded as a Black parent and you have wealth and privilege and your child is walking around with this level of confidence and this sense of protection? When we look at Black coming-of-age stories or horror films that deal with the Black experience in America, there are often very real, very valid concerns wrapped up in these narratives. These cautionary tales that we tell our children, they are real, right? They're not made up. They're not about fake monsters. They're about real, actual issues that they could run into. Be careful, we say, because you could mess up your life in ways that you don't get a second chance at if you're not responsible. Look out, because some people are out to get you and they do not care if they leave you right where they found you. Due to the way the state of America was founded, which is on this culture of white supremacy and control of the Black body, violence against the Black body for being unruly, it's understandable that there are strict Black parents who say, look, you cannot afford to do what other kids do. You don't get this exploration period. Messing up could put your body in serious harm's way. When we look at why we love novels, young adult novels like The Hunger Games or books from Judy Blume or anybody else about the real life experiences of kids, even if it's in a dystopia or in our world, it's because we see a safe place to work out some of the questions about what we do with ourselves and what we do with our time. In Black or Christian circles, we might have stories like this be something that we want to push away or not engage with because maybe it doesn't line up with our values about the body or politics. But the great thing about realistic teen fiction is that it gives you a very normative, non-tragic, non-hyperbolic way to engage with real life questions and issues that are happening day to day in your kids' lives. When young people feel like they cannot talk to trusted adults about what they're going through, that's when a lot of them turn to secrecy, shame, or just straight up deceit to their parents or people who actually have the tools to help them or could develop the tools to help them, which is something we learn in this show when we watch the two Black mothers talk about therapy and they talk about their own shortcomings, which was just a beautiful thing to see. And importantly, fiction like this that's not exaggerated is that you can learn that some mistakes are not tragedies that you can't ever come back from. When Keisha chooses to not speak to her mom about a major mistake she's made, she loses out on getting that support from her. I would like to repeat that in Black America, horror stories are not that far-fetched because we just have to look at our own history and even look at recent times to know that whistling, supposedly, or even seeing an attractive white woman can get you in massive trouble, that one decision could throw your entire college game off course, or that you could be in the wrong place at the wrong time and you're never going to see the light of day again. Being late can turn into a deadly cop altercation, right? That is something that we see this group grapple with, which is something that's awesome about transposing a story like this into a modern Black family. This isn't fantasy like Bridgerton. It's accessible in that this is real life. And it is a kind of also relaxing and fun thing to see Black teenagers figure out their life without tragedy, without the suffering Negro, without this need for incredible resilience that is just heartbreaking to watch. It's a Black experience that, yes, is imperfect, but it's still privileged and brimming with possibility. Something that we know is true already of our communities and something we don't often get to see in TV. The show invites audiences to move beyond their fear or their discomfort and really think about what it might mean to guide and support and be with the kids in our lives. Some of Black parenting is this, or immigrant parenting even, is this need to overcorrect for the pain and suffering that we might know that they'll go through in life, or trying to shield them from every pain. What I love about this show is that you have this constant negotiation between all the parents and all the authority figures as they're trying to figure out how do you not shield them from this pain, but guide and support them. I think it matters that Judy Blume helped executive produce this and that Akil and her experiences were brought to the forefront of this show, because it's important that we don't just use tragedy and threats and fear to come up with alternatives or better stories for our young people. It's not helpful in them making everyday wise decisions that reflect their values and morals. Stories like this one are far more likely to happen. And the outcome for relationships and connection that happens within a grounded community, that can be safe and connecting in a good way. And it's far less likely to leave our kids to resort to only knowing anything about anything from their peers. Realistic fiction like this, it doesn't need to be banned, it needs to be engaged with. Because at the end of the day, a controversial book or show, it shouldn't be the first and final conversation in your child's life. It should be the beginning of an ongoing one between you and the people you care about. I would love to know what you think about this, how this reflects what you're trying to teach your kids or what you're trying to teach the kids in your life. And I'm grateful for Akil for bringing an unapologetic Black story about Black families living their best lives and their normal lives to the rest of us.